what do you think are the impact of this initiative for the world? Because the theme of this forum is globalization. And actually someone mentioned this morning that BRI can act as one of the platforms for globalization 4.0. So what's your view of that?
I agree with that view. China is providing an alternative way of globalizing many developing countries in a way different from the U.S. Particularly the U.S. has been done. In the period immediately after World War II, the U.S. provided the Marshall Plan,
Yes.
Which was used for infrastructure reconstruction in Europe, and the U.S. In the early period provided a lot of money for reconstruction and infrastructure rebuilding. But over the past, more recent years, the U.S. has not been spending much money for that purpose, but rather the U.S. has been promoting trade liberalization, investment liberalization, financial liberalization through the IMF, through the World Bank, and so forth. So that's been a form of globalization. Of course, the U.S. has IT technology has pushed globalization. And China's globalization is different by providing infrastructure, construction financing, and connectivity,
Yes.
and then push globalization. So that's an alternative way of globalizing the world.
This initiative has been in place for 5 years now.
Right.
So on the whole, how do you evaluate the implementation of this initiative?
As I said, it's been positive. We have to really give credit to President Xi Jinping and the Chinese government. But at the same time, there has been some pushback. Some countries have found some difficulties and problems. So I think China wants to become flexible in adjusting the way in which BRI projects are implemented in various countries.
Okay. So how would you analyze the Japanese attitude or policies towards this BRI, either from the government or from the businesses or think tanks?
From the government point of view, initially the Japanese government did not react positively or negatively. But starting in 2017, the Abe administration started to support the concept of BRI, but under certain conditions, right, under certain principles. And then Mr. Abe decided to work with Chinese government for joint projects in third countries. So that's the way of how Japan has been viewing the BRI. Initially, no interest or no attention, full reaction.
Yes.
And then Japan has become more positive towards the BRI. But by 2017, several problems, as I said, have already come out. So several principles like economic viability of the BRI project, openness to everybody for use of the BRI project, transparency, um, which would include procurement and fiscal and debt sustainability of the world.
Yes.
So 4 principles: economic viability, openness, transparency, and debt sustainability. I'm sure the Chinese government would agree to this because AIIB is taking precisely that course.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So AIIB has been, in my view, very successful. I think the BRI wants to take a look at how AIIB is delivering various projects. So I think AIIB is providing a good lesson to the BRI projects.
Actually, you mentioned an important point. It's third-party cooperation.
Right.
And I visited some African countries. You mentioned that the Chinese companies have been quite efficient in building infrastructure in countries like Africa. So are the Japanese companies, actually. So
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Kawai, for taking this
Okay.
interview from China Focus.
Okay.
And, well, thank you again for your valuable points.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.